You're listening to Men of Abundance, episode 204 with Christie Garcia, and today we're talking about making mindful choices.
Welcome to Men of Abundance, the podcast for those looking to level up their lives by hanging out with some of the greatest leaders and established professionals in our community, living a life of integrity, honor, and the abundance mentality. Prepare to pay it forward with your host, former Army medic turned lifestyle entrepreneur, Wally Carmichael.
What is going on, all of you amazing, abundant leaders out there? I am Wally Carmichael, your founder and host of the Men of Abundance podcast, the Pay It Forward community, and today we are paying it forward in a big way, talking with Christy and talking about mindful choices. And I bring this up every once in a while when we're talking with female guests, when we're talking with the ladies. This is Men of Abundance, and we do gear the message towards men. But let's face it, guys, we have a lot to learn from women. And Christy works directly with men. But here's the thing, and this is something that has rang true since I've been doing this, since I've been talking with men and talking with other men who work with men and other women, and actually women who work with men, is most men just don't get into having these type of conversations. Most men don't really get into going to these retreats like we're going to talk about with Christy. And once those that do, those that are apprehensive, and they do get into the conversation and they do attend these men's retreats to get this type of knowledge and really get to know ourselves in a much deeper connection so that we can have a deeper connection in relationships with our family and with our coworkers, with our bosses, with everybody in our lives. Every single man that I've talked to has said, why the hell didn't I do this years ago? I would have been so much better off. So here's the thing. I want to send a message out there to you ladies who are listening, because it is through you that we will be able to reach the men in your life. Not just your spouse, but also the boys in your life, your kids, your nephews, your grandparents, your grandfather, your uncles. All of these guys need to be reached out to, and share this episode and other episodes with them. But through your encouragement, they just may get the desire to take a chance and attend one of these retreats and get into these conversations that we're having here at Men of Abundance, because they already love, know, and trust you, and they know that you want the best for them. So ladies, make sure you're sharing Men of Abundance with all of the men in your life, because most of them aren't seeking out this type of information. And once they get a hold of it and they realize this is what's been missing in my life, I've needed to have these conversations, these real deep, true conversations with men who are strong men, who are on their journey and really want the best for them, as opposed to some of the destructive behaviors that many of us guys get into, which are nothing more than going every once in a while during football season, baseball season, basketball, whatever, and watching the games together, and then talking about the players and not talking about our own lives. And then, God forbid, going to strip clubs and other bars and stuff like this that just really are not conducive with the lifestyle that that you want your man to have. So introduce them to Men of Abundance, introduce them to other podcasts that are talking to men, and introduce them to these men's retreats and encourage them to go, not let them go. It's important that you encourage them to get involved in these type of retreats and go on these retreats on a regular basis. They're going to come back a better man. They're going to come back a better person than they were when they left, and they're going to serve you much better as well. And I'm just telling you, I know this from personal experience. I know this from my own experience, and I know this from the experience of many men and women who I've talked to, who have had men come back from these retreats, and it just reinvigorates the relationship, not only with you as the spouse, as the girlfriend, but also with the kids, also at work, in the business, and it just goes on and on, the benefits of attending a quality men's retreat. So our featured guest today is Christie Garcia, and Christie Garcia is a leadership coach and founder of the Mindful Choice Coaching. She helps fast-growing companies maximize the impact of their leadership and management teams through self-awareness, ownership, communication, and alignment. Some of the companies she has worked with include Airbnb, Twitter, Sunroom, and Oakley. Christie's latest project is focused on building programs, masterminds, and adventure retreats for men to help them set up their leadership, maximize their career, improve their relationships, and live a more successful life. Men of Abundance, it is my pleasure to introduce you to Christie Garcia. Christie, welcome to Men of Abundance. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, Wally. I appreciate it.
It is my pleasure. It really is. Where are you at in the world?
I'm out in California, the Central Coast, so the San Luis Obispo area.
Okay, I've been around California a little bit, but San Francisco when I was a really, really young man, because my grandmother lived out in Sacramento, and we went and visited San Francisco. Just had to do that, I guess. And I love San Diego. That's where I spent most of my time. I've been to L.A. on some jobs and stuff when I was a young man, but I dig San Diego. I like that area. But other than that, I haven't been. I know California's got so much to offer.
It is a massive state, yes. I did actually live in Sacramento and San Francisco for a while. Great cities, but yeah, they're crazy busy. San Diego's, you get all of it. You get the chilled California vibe, but you still have enough city that you're got some culture around there, but it's not quite as crazy as the Bay Area for sure.
Yeah, I know the Bay Area is nuts. It was a lot to take in as a little guy. I mean, I remember going to the Wax Museum and seeing Alcatraz, and then finally when the fog cleared or whatever, all the clouds and everything cleared, we were able to see the Golden Gate Bridge, and then it disappeared again. So that was a pretty interesting time.
Absolutely. We used to call the fog Carl. Here comes Carl again.
I've heard that before. Yeah.
Moving in and out.
Yeah, absolutely. I heard that once before. That's very interesting.
Right?
I laugh about that conversation. Got a
personality of its own.
Yeah, exactly. That's funny. I love that. So before we get too much into our conversation, I like to start out with an attitude of gratitude. What do you have to be grateful for today?
Oh, that's such a great question. I am just blessed to be healthy and happy today. It's a beautiful day here. I've got friends in town visiting, and I just blessed to have healthy, happy family and friends. Absolutely.
That is exciting. I like to have friends in town. Being as far out as I am, I don't always get a lot of friends in town. But funny is, I have a grade school friend of mine who I've known since grade school. He's out here working for the year, and from Arizona. And we've been going out and catching up and hadn't talked to talk to each other a little bit on Facebook and stuff. But it's cool to be able to sit down and have a meal and a few drinks and catch up. It's pretty interesting how our lives have changed in the last 30 years.
Absolutely, it's wild how much life can just change in 5 years. Especially I think there's a point where right now all my friends are getting married and have a baby, so you don't see each other for a year or two. Life can be completely different. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like prior life was crazy.
Yeah, and it's funny too sometimes with those reunions. You think you remember somebody like from high school or something like that, and then you meet up and you're like, okay, this
right?
This guy is like, whoa, not the person I would, sit down and have a family dinner with anymore. Not the person I thought I remembered from high school. You experienced that?
Right. Or they're the exact same person that they were in high school and nothing's changed.
Oh, yes. Yes, I don't know which is worse, right?
A lot, right?
Exactly. That's a very good point. Yeah, no, that is a good point. Who really changed, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You might have been the problem, not them.
Yeah, exactly. Because I do think back on some of the stuff that I did when I was a kid and who I was as a kid. I was an arrogant young man for sure. I just knew every darn thing there was to know. And, I was, had long hair, long blonde hair. I was a lot different back then for sure. A lot has changed. Definitely don't have that long hair anymore. But in any case,
got a haircut.
Before we get too much into our conversation, I want to give some love to Interview Valet and Karen and Tom and Aaron and Dan, and I just miss somebody every time I start mentioning off names. I don't even know why I do it, but the whole team over there, Interview Valet, are simply amazing for me as the podcast host. Can you share what your experience has been with them?
You know what? They just make it so easy. You tell them the audience you want to talk to, and they find great podcast hosts that are excited to have you on their show, and every single one I've had through them has just been incredibly easy, fun, and purposeful. So it's really awesome. Yeah, I can't say enough good things about them.
Very cool. So listen, for those of you out there who have a message to share and you're having a hard time finding a podcast to get in front of your specific audience, your avatar, the people you want to talk to, Interview Valet can find those people for you. They can find that podcast, and they most likely know the host. If they don't, they'll create a relationship. They will get you on that show. They will coach you into getting on the as far as your conversation with the host. They'll do a bunch of your one sheet. They'll put you out there on social media. I mean, they just do so much for you as the guest on a podcast. So go to Men of Abundance of this episode. Click on the Interview Valet tab down there at the bottom. Get in contact with them and see if they can help you out. They're just amazing, amazing people.
Agreed.
Awesome. So let me ask you this. How would you describe yourself?
How would I describe myself? That is a loaded question,
It
Wally.
is. I love it.
I love that one too. That's a big one though. That's a great question. Are we talking personally or professionally?
Whatever comes to your mind right now.
I think as a person, I am fun, caring, thoughtful, very intense, very direct, charming, but I can be a little stubborn as well. Yeah, and very ambitious. But I love balance. I created my business around balance, as I'm sure you appreciate living in Hawaii. I'm definitely focused on practicing what I preach, which is making sure that I prioritize the people that I love and the things I say I want in my personal life just as much as I do my professional. So creating a lot of conscious balance in my life is really, really important to me.
It's extremely important, and I already knew that about you based on what I had, Interview Valet sent me a bunch of information about you. I looked at your website, and the bottom line is, you have masterminds. You help people advance and maximize their career, but also improve their relationships and live more successful life. And I've found personally, and we're going to get into this conversation much deeper, because that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation with you specifically is, careers are important. We have to, have ways to add value to the community and add value to people other than just our immediate family. And of course, got to make a few bucks, right? To survive in this society that we live in. But too many people, and this is my experience, the guys that I talk to, they're doing very well. They're very successful on the surface by most people's standards. But when you dig into it, the reason why they contact me specifically is because, and people like me and yourself, is their relationships are in shambles. And sometimes the family member will contact me and say, "Hey, can you work with this guy? Can you?" That's great. I would love to do that, but that guy's got to want to do the work as well. But bottom line is, relationships are extremely important. Once you get those relationships right, at home and professionally and personally, then your career just catapults. What is your experience with that?
Absolutely. I think you nailed it. Absolutely. I have had the same experience working with a lot of these guys in the corporate arena, and they're doing great things in business and they're happy and they're successful. But then once you dig just a little bit and take a little bit of that onion layer off, you start to hear more of that, well, I'm fine, things are okay, life is good. And it truly is good and fine and okay, but there's not a lot of excitement, not a lot of engagement beyond the passion for their careers. And it comes back to they've gotten lazy at home, and they're not engaged in their relationships anymore, and they're not actively living and participating. They're just going on with the motions, going through the motions on a daily basis, and they want more. They're bored. So I definitely hear that. And the latest program that I'm working with is called the Manifesto, and it's designed specifically for that reason of how to proactively create those relationships and to be successful at life just as much as you're successful at work before it's too late, before you have to fix a problem, because that is exactly the motto that happens within the male arena is they don't take care of things and invest the time until something's broken, and now let's fix it, and they'll put all their energy into it, but it's too late. So you hear time and time again these relationships that suffer, and they don't know why they were so out of the loop. I've heard probably 3 times over the last 4 months, my wife cheated on me. I had no idea she was so unhappy. It's like, whoa, hello, how on earth did you not know your wife was so unhappy? How disengaged were you? So it's just bringing that consciousness to life. We business strategize our business every day. We talk about our goals. We talk about our outcomes. We talk about our teams, and we build them up, and we train everybody. And then you say, well, how much have you invested in life? And there's deer in headlights. Like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So yeah, absolutely. It's a sad thing to face, but I think our world is ready for this change and ready for guys to step more into this proactive way of being, which is really cool that there's people like you out there doing this work. And I think there's a lot of other coaches like us in this arena playing with the guys who are ready to step up and show up 100% every day, not wait till things are broken.
Exactly. Yeah, you're absolutely correct. There's a huge need for this. And being in the circles that I'm in, there are quite a few guys that are out there doing certain things and in their own way, and creating these groups for men to come together and truly talk about what's going on in their lives, and also how to deal with certain things that are happening at home, but also be proactive and be intentional about the relationships. That's where a lot of guys miss the boat, because like you said, why fix what's not broken? Well, you're not seeing under the hood. You're not even lifting the hood to see that, there's a bunch of stuff under there that shouldn't be there. We're going to get more into what specifically you do, because I really dig what you have going on with the mindful choice coaching and mindful choice. I love that term to begin with. But before we do that, I really want to get into this kick in the gut moment, because I know you have a couple.
There are a couple.
These are important to bring out, guys, because it's important to understand that even though it looks like Christie's got it all put together and she's always had it together and nothing goes wrong in her life, it's important to realize that, yes, it does. And this is what we do about it. This is what people that want to move forward and first help ourselves and then help others, this is how we get out of that funk, and how we overcome those kick in the gut moments. Sometimes we don't fully overcome them, but at least we confront them and move on. So if you could, share that kick in the gut moment with us and really make us feel that.
Yeah, I've had several. Obviously, we all have if we've made it to a certain point in life. I believe it's how aware we are of those kick in the gut moments. So one of my most obvious ones was probably when I was 29. I was doing great, had a great career, had a great life in San Francisco, tons of friends, traveled a lot, did what I wanted. But if I stopped long enough, I realized that I was looking for more as far as a relationship and a family and all that good stuff. And so one morning I actually fell off of my 30-foot balcony. And obviously, God's way of saying, hey, you were not going to listen to your own gut. I'm going to just throw you off and make you see it and hear it and feel it. So yeah, I had this massive fall, and I think it was the kick in the gut that I needed to stop long enough. I was injured long enough to have to have a moment and really get clear on what I was missing in my life. And everything I now teach really was something I had to learn back in my early 30s, of how to be emotionally available, how to connect with people beyond just the social fun, girl that I was that could talk to anybody and make friends anywhere. So I used to justify that as deep, meaningful relationships. And the reality is I had a lot of relationships. I was incredibly social, and I had a ton of friends. But in this process, I learned there's a difference between good friends, meaningful relationships, and acquaintances. And that was really mind-blowing for me. So with business, it taught me that I needed to move out of the city, buy a house, establish some roots, make some space for that next chapter. And I started my business, my leadership coaching business, Mindful Choice, and started dating and learning so much more about myself, and realizing that, just because you have success in your career and with business, at the end of the day, those superficial things don't fulfill you. They don't leave your heart feeling satisfied at the end of your days. And it was such a good reminder and a great lesson when I was in medical sales. My prior life was 10 years in the medical arena, and I would walk the hospitals daily. And I got to where I would walk into these hospital rooms that when someone was by themselves, and I'd get really curious and get to know them a little bit and figure out, why are they alone? And it always came down to most of them were men, and most of them always said, I worked too much. I didn't pay attention to the people that mattered most. I lost my family, even though I worked so hard to provide for them, it wasn't enough. I should have said I'm sorry when I did something wrong. Instead, my pride and my ego wouldn't let me. And it was just these constant reminders of how easy it is we get wrapped up in life and our to-do list and our tasks and our goals professionally, that we forget about life today. And before you know it, you're 60 and you're retired, and there's nothing there to show for it except for maybe a fancy car and a big house, but the house is empty and the car, is sitting out there getting dust on it because you have no one to drive it with. Like, it's just, again, a great reminder of what we have to show up every day and invest in both of our lives. So yeah, I've created programs now that fulfill that. And I think that was the biggest thing that, like I said at the beginning, I am so committed to having that balanced life now, because I know I can get wrapped up in the daily task and the professional goals if I don't consciously every day say, who matters today? Who do I need to call? Who do I need to stay in touch with? What do I need to do to take care of me? And it's been great.
Yeah, it sounds great. So I got to ask you, just to appease my curiosity, how do you fall out of a window? How did this fall happen? What was going on there?
That's such a good question. I fell. I was walking my dog at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Friday. Just had decorated my house for a holiday party. It was the week before Thanksgiving, and I got locked out of my house. And it happened all the time in this building. And for some reason, we thought it was very safe to crawl down our fire escape and into our kitchen window. This particular morning, because I just put up some glass Christmas trees in front of my window, I needed my neighbor to hold them and watch my dog. And so instead of us going through the roof and down the ladder, which goes directly into the window, we walked a platform. And as I was walking on the platform, I exited her bedroom window and walked right into the 2x2 manhole and just fell right down it. It was pretty gnarly. Yeah.
Wow.
I know. It's a crazy story. Totally. It was definitely a very interesting day, to say the least.
Absolutely. And what does that do? As you're laying there and you're just in disbelief, I'm sure, that just happened. Then you're in disbelief that, am I still alive? Did I survive this? And then you feel the pain. This is the experience that I'm hearing from other people. I just had a conversation that posted, actually, episode 191 with Rob Decker, who literally threw himself out of a third-story window. That's a whole different story. You'd have to go listen to that one. But and another guy who fell as a child from a railroad track. And they explained this. So what's going through your head when you finally stop falling? And
it's so crazy. Even today, I feel like it wasn't me that fell. So when I walked through, I always tell people it's like the Wile E. Coyote. You know how when he walks into the black hole, you always hear him go, woo-hoo-hoo-hoo.
Yeah,
it sounds so stupid. But I remember I remember hearing that voice. It was the most bizarre thing ever. I remember hearing that, and luckily I'd already started my coach training, and so there was a lot of inner peace around stuff, and I just remember saying, okay, if this is bad, and I just kind of need to take a deep breath and trust that if I'm supposed to survive this, I will. And I remember just taking a deep breath, and then I don't remember anything after that. I knocked myself out on the second floor, and I kind of just, my poor neighbor, my girlfriend, she was watching this whole thing happen, and she said it was just this bizarre thing where I kept doing these turns, like my body would just manipulate perfectly to fit through each hole versus, being mangled by this 2x2 hole. And so I fit through 3 of those 2x2 holes somehow magically, and it was wild. So I landed on my wrists and my knees, and so I didn't have any major impact, which is why I'm alive today. But it was crazy. I think because I knocked myself out, one that helped me just be a noodle. But when I actually woke up, that's the only thing I remember is, okay, can I move my limbs? Being in the medical industry, it's always like, can you move your limbs? Great. I can wiggle my toes. I can wiggle my fingers. I can feel them all. I think I'm okay. And I think God and every angel out there was on my side. It wasn't my time to go. So it was such a wake up call for me. I walked away. I had 5 stitches on my chin and I was in the ER for 3 hours. I mean, it was just a nuts day. Yeah. So
amazing story.
It was eye opening.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course you mentioned divine intervention. There is no doubt about that. When it's your time, no matter what happens.
Yeah.
But another interesting thing that you said was that you had that inner peace already because you were already starting your coaching business. You already had this, and I call it resilience. In the military, I was a master resiliency trainer, and a lot of being resilient in various situations and these kick in the gut moments that we talk about so much is having the inner peace. So it's just amazing that you were able to go into that with that mindset at that point in time.
Looking back, I have no idea where it came from. Yeah, I mean, I knew I was, pretty self-aware and all that good stuff. But yeah, helped me be very, very aware of that level of inner peace. And it was like, okay, I lived well every day. And if this is it, this is it. I guess this is a story everybody will get to talk about for a while.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that
sounds terrible, but
an experience to say the least. To tell the grandkids about.
Exactly. You just have to trust the process.
Did I ever tell you about the time? Yes, I remember. But I know I'm going to have a lot of those conversations with my grandkids when I have them. But mindful choice. Absolutely love that again, like I already said. So, and you got the manifesto you already kind of briefly touched on a little bit. What specifically are you doing with that, and who specifically are you working with?
Yeah, so I started Mindful Choice about 7 years ago, and the whole point was how to be more mindful, how to be more intentional in your life, and then how to choose to be happy. Really being conscious and intentional. I'm a big believer that everything we do revolves around self-awareness and ownership in order to be successful in our relationships, in our career. So I started the business as a leadership development organization for fast-growing companies. I've worked with Airbnb, Twitter, Sunrun, many other startups out there. And I've also worked with, construction companies and banking industries. And what I have come to found is about 95% of the people I work with tend to be men over the last 5 years. And so I started this new platform called the Manifesto. And both of the platforms really just come back to teaching people how to maximize their impact, how to be more aware of their actions, why do they do what they do, how to change what they do and be more effective. So I have a tool that I use that's very great to help one see the reality. Our reality is our reality, and we can deny it all we want, but when we have people saying, oh, this is how you impact me and this is how you show up, a lot of times our ego wants to tell us that's just not true. So it's a great reality check for people to just see, hey, we usually think we show up either better than we do or not as well as we do. So we always have this ego that's trying to prove itself to the world. And I just like to help everybody realize that your ego is not your enemy. And the more you understand it, the more you can manage it to make it your strength and to use it to maximize that impact and know when it's giving you a warning and know when it's making you not your best self. So my whole thing is how to be 1% better every single day, how to show up and, whether it's to be a leader and a better boss at work and improve those communication skills, or if it's at home to be able to show up and be more engaged with your kids, be a better dad, a better father, or a better husband, wherever it is that you feel you can be 1% better, then I want to be able to help give you the tools, give you the consciousness to show up in that arena.
Yeah, and you just said 1% better. Guys, listen to that terminology that she's using right there. So many people think when you have to make a drastic change, I don't call it change as much as I call it just improvement. You're just improving upon your mindset and improving upon who yourself, but you only need to change 1%. I mean, think about every time, and I always like these analogies, like an airplane flying from Hawaii to New York. It's constantly correcting 1 to 2% from one way to the other to stay on course, and it's making a big change. 1% off, and they're in Russia, or something like that. So you don't have to make drastic changes. And I say that because that's where I find so many guys, so many people, they find the fear in, I just don't know that I can make that much change. And you don't have to. It's little things that you make.
Absolutely.
So, you've talked to, as you've mentioned, that, Airbnb, Twitter, Oakley. I mean, so how do you communicate, and how does that look working with these particular companies? Are you working with like the corporate executives, the employees, the staff, or the individuals that you're working with in those companies?
All of the above. So a lot of what I do tends to focus on the management teams. So whether it's bottom level or first line management all the way up to executive level, and there's group and individual coaching involved. So I'm a big believer that this is ongoing training. Like you said, having a coach is so important in life. Nothing's an easy fix. And when you're talking about changing someone's behaviors and belief systems, we all need someone externally to give us new tools. And so with these organizations, I build 6 and 12-month programs to just help individuals and groups work more effectively. So most of the time, there's usually 10 to 15, 20 people that they put into this group program, and built into that 6 months, there is either, monthly workshops as a group and then individual coaching sessions in between, or off-site executive retreats to really create some of that strategy, get some of the team building going, and just more self-awareness and ownership as a team as a whole, so that each individual can be more effective. One of my, big skills is to help people communicate more effectively and understand different personality types, so that they can really reach across the aisle and motivate and inspire. I'm a big believer, we can't change anyone, so we can only change ourselves. So if you're out there saying, oh, it's someone else's fault, or I'm not getting this because of that person, or this person's holding me back, you need to look in the mirror. There's no way you can change those other people. So how do you learn how to communicate effectively with them? When someone else is having a problem with their ego, or struggling with something, or not giving you what you want, then I always say you're probably not communicating it effectively. They're not hearing you. So really making sure that people are aware and taking ownership of their part in every interaction that they have to get more of the results they seek. And that, I think, has changed people's lives dramatically, both at work and at home, understanding how their ego either makes them show up loud and arrogant, or it makes them shut down and go passive. And that being able to understand why they do it, they can then identify and recognize that in others, to be able to change language to pull people into more of that open space versus closing them down or closing themselves down.
Wow, very cool. Absolutely. And as important as that is in the corporate sector, at the job and the businesses, how does that translate as far as when you're working with an individual? You said you work a lot with men, because in true fact, we can't change others. So many of us want to have a better relationship with our spouse and our children.
Yep.
Do you involve, like you said, you have to, it's important to get the whole company involved to make change and within the culture of the company. The same is true within the family, right?
Absolutely. And honestly, I think communication it's the same everywhere, right? If you know how to communicate effectively, you're going to communicate effectively at home and at work. And that's actually where the manifesto came from. This new platform that I have that's designed specifically for men is to help them really recognize where they're falling short at home. Because the ego you might show up at work with probably looks different than the one you show at home with.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and so being able to identify, when do you go along to get along, when you really need to have an opinion at home? When do you have too much of an opinion at home that you shut down everybody else in your family? And being able to help them really recognize their role in those relationships at home has been absolutely eye-opening, rewarding, and it just warms my heart. Again, is why I created this program. I come from a family that my parents got divorced when I was in high school, and so I've seen healthy and unhealthy relationships through my whole life, and through relationships of my own, and being able to understand that most of the time we are fighting for the same things, but we are just using language that doesn't resonate with the person of a different personality type. And so teaching people words that shut down their spouse is huge. Teaching them which words shut them down so they can share that with their spouse is huge. Or being able to learn how to be just a little more emotional available for difficult conversations. When, a lot of times where people really struggle at home is when something bad happens, whether it's a health issue or an accident or some type of trauma, or even just a heated discussion, it's so personal that we let our ego get the best of us. And so being able to recognize how to stay grounded and how to stay clear on our thoughts and conscious in those moments so we don't go to our worst self, how to really pull from our best self in those moments.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with that. And so we're at the point where we're going to pay it forward to our abundant leaders. You ready to do that, Christy?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Hey guys, I need a huge favor from you, and this has very high potential of being very beneficial to you as well. You may or may not know, but I recently launched a new e-learning platform called Abundance and Prosperity Mastery, and this is where I combine the abundance mindset with marketing and business strategies. And I'm in the process of writing a book that specifically details my ability to find a minimum of $10,000 in additional revenue for any industry out there. And I'm convinced I can do this for any industry out there, and I do this in just 45 minutes. And this is a service that I'm currently offering to select clients. So what I'm asking of you as a Men of Abundance listener is if you would consider letting me perform this service for you in your industry, especially if it's an industry I have not worked in yet, and then just use your results as a future case study in my book, either under your business name or anonymously. And again, as a Men of Abundance listener, I won't charge you anything for this service, and all I ask in return is your written permission to use your results for my book. And if I impress you, maybe just a brief testimonial I can use as well. If you're willing and ready to do that favor for me, then send me an email to info@apmasterycoach.com. That's Alpha Papa masterycoach.com, and in the subject line put 10K book, and then in the body of the email just put a brief description of what your industry is and maybe a few of your biggest challenges. I will then get back with you with a calendar link so that you and I can get on the line and I can show you how I can find $10,000 of revenue in your business in 45 minutes. And as an added bonus, just for helping me out, I will share with you the 3 biggest lead generation mistakes small businesses make and how to overcome every one of them. All right, let's get back to the conversation. So share with Men of Abundance 1 to 3 actionable steps that they can take today.
Simple things. 1, be conscious of your life. You know, where can you be 1% better today, tomorrow, and the next day? And just wake up saying, I want to do this better. And this could be as simple as walking out the door and making sure you give your family a kiss, or, you know, telling your kids you love them and you're proud of them. That's a big one that guys forget to do. They just assume people know what they're thinking. So make sure you're vocalizing that. 2, at work, make sure you're speaking your truth and be confident in what you offer. Know your value. So if something's bothering you, if something's coming up, if you have wisdom to offer, make sure you're offering it, not in an arrogant way and not in a passive way, but very confident, like, this is, you know, why I think it and this is why it's important. An easy tactic for that is make sure you're always speaking from a place of things are bigger than you. Why does it matter to you? Why does it matter to the person involved? And why does it matter to the customer, the business, to the world around us? The further you can get conversations away from yourself, the more that message is heard, the more relevant your solution or idea is. So making sure you get it really far away from yourself. And then last, I think just making sure you choose to be happy. It's a choice to wake up every day and to be, you know, have a good mood, have a bad mood. You can change it like the weather. My first coach told me that, and it sticks with me every day, is if you wake up grumpy, you have a choice to put your rain boots on and get an umbrella and dance in the rain, or wake up grumpy and just be miserable and make everyone else miserable around you. So choose happiness.
I love it. I absolutely love that idea of choosing happiness. I totally agree with that. One of the things that I do, and it sounds so silly when I tell guys to do this, that, you know, they're just having a terrible day, terrible week. I tell them, you know what you do? Just go in the bathroom, shut the door, and just look in the mirror. And you can think of something happy or not, but just smile at yourself in the mirror. Smile big, huge, right? To where you start laughing. And then somebody's going to be outside the bathroom going, are you okay?
Right?
Are you all right? Because you cannot be grumpy with a smile on your face. Absolutely. It's physically impossible.
Get goofy. Get out of your head, for sure.
Yeah.
Crank up some music. Have a dance party. Do something. For sure. I love that. Just smile.
Yeah.
I mean, look how much we laugh just by hearing that story.
Just talking about it. You know what? Go on YouTube. Search laughing babies. You will not be able to resist.
It's so
I dare
true.
you.
Just joy in your heart is instant. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Just play that in the background while you're driving to work, man.
Yep.
So what daily habits make the biggest impact in your life?
I think I can list off the normal routine, but for me, it's really my morning routine, waking up early. I used to be really, really just like get up early, go work out, and my task list started immediately. I've actually gotten away from that, and it's now wake up early enough that I don't have to start my task list immediately, and I can just read some news, listen to a podcast or an Audible to start my day off positive, drink my cup of tea, and just like have my moment, and then I start my tasks or my workout or whatever. So I would say that morning routine of just starting with a little peace and self-care is my favorite way to start the day.
Yeah, it's extremely important to get your head right before you start getting into the work you love, even if you do love the work you love.
Absolutely. It just makes your day so busy. Otherwise, you're just going through the motions when you're just busy all the time.
Excellent. Yeah, so you mentioned Audible, you mentioned podcast. What do you read or listen to that you would recommend to our abundant leaders, and why?
Oh, I love anything that makes you think. So I do. The latest book that I absolutely love is what is it called? Mindset: New Psychology of Success by Dr. Carol Dweck. I don't know if you've read that one, but it's really fascinating. And it's such a simple book to read, but I think it's great for parents. It's great for individuals. It's great for leaders. And it's such a great reminder that every single one of us gets into a fixed mindset in life. And we have to understand, again, go back to that self-awareness and ownership and recognize when these habits and rituals that we get ourselves into hold us back and we don't even know it. One of the examples is thinking about your daily habits, like where do you get stuck? And it's simple. I ask every single one of my clients, how often do you change your drive to work every day? And you'd be surprised. Some people have been driving the same exact route for the last 20 years. And it's one of those, a simple thing of, well, change your route and see what that does for your brain. And it was really fascinating. Everybody that did it, they found something new, or a new restaurant, or a new, just way of being. They turn a new radio station on and listen to a new newscast. It's a fascinating thing of how many things we just get in the habit of doing. And before you know it, 5, 10, 15 years go by and it's still, it's a habit, chosen or not, good or bad. It's just a habit and we're not conscious of it. So how to be more intentional in that mindset is really cool.
That is really cool, because I'm always telling guys, to travel outside their community, travel outside their state, and if they have the means, make the means to travel outside the country. But just this morning, it's funny. It's so funny you say that. Literally just this morning, I took a different route to work. And I had been wanting to take this route just to see if it was a quicker route, and I'd, driven down these roads before, but I never used it to take the route to work. And I did that this morning. And it's so simple to change some of the things that you do as a daily habit. Like your morning routine. Have a morning routine, but change it up every once in a while.
Yeah.
I think that's brilliant.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It just re-engages you.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you feel holds most people back from living a life of true abundance?
I think complacency. I think we get into, again, going back to those habits and routines, we get out of consciously creating our days, creating our moments, creating our actions and our conversations, that we just go through the motions. And before you know it, Monday looks like Wednesday, Wednesday looks like Friday. And it's not good, but it's not bad. And everybody's just going through this complacent place in the world and hoping for the best. And I think it's the killer of all humans.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. So what does living a life of abundance mean to you?
I think it's waking up, being grateful. That first question you asked is waking up and reminding yourself that, no matter how rough your day is, there's plenty of things to be grateful for in this world. And living life to its fullest every single day without regrets, telling the people you love that you love them, showing up in the actions and the doing the things that you want to do today. Stop wasting time, stop putting them off, and say the things you want to say, do the things you want to do, and show up. I think show up 100% every single day. That way, if it is your last day, if you fall off a 30-foot building, you can have that inner peace and you're not the guy that's sitting in a hospital room with a bunch of regrets or by themselves or wishing you did something differently.
Yeah, wonderful. Absolutely love that answer. So we're going to close this up. Christie, before we do, what did we not talk about that you want to ensure that our abundant leaders get out of our conversation today?
If anybody is falling into that route, I do have this new manifesto retreat that we're doing. It is looking for just good men who are wanting to be better, who are wanting to take 3 days to go create their life strategy. Get out of the business strategy and start strategizing life to make sure all those relationships and those avenues are being invested in as well. So if you're interested in that, check out the website, mindfulchoice.com can lead you there.
Excellent. Yeah, we'll have that linked up in the show notes for sure. So go check that out, guys. Take a very close look at that. It's important to get out of your normal environment. And when you're going to do things like this, even myself, when I'm thinking of some new blog for my, new blog post or new video to do, or if I'm thinking about a new chapter for the book, I get outside of my normal routine, my normal area. It's easy for me because I go sit on the beach or I go out back and I look at the stars and whatever, and I can really just think about it and really get into my mind and get very creative. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you're just kind of stuck with everything else, all the mumbo jumbo going on, all the monkey chatter, I call it, in your brain. Get out and go do something like this. I think it'll just do an amazing thing for your life, for your relationships, and for your business or your job, whatever the case may be. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, very amazing conversation, Christie. Absolutely love everything you're doing. I appreciate everything that you're doing. Is there any other way that we can get in contact with you other than your website, mindfulchoicecoaching.com?
There's a Facebook page. I'm not super active on social media. I'm trying to get better, but I will be honest, that is the nemesis of me. But yeah, so you can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn. There's a lot of updates on LinkedIn with different programs and things I'm doing. And if organizations want to do some leadership development with their teams or create some offsite retreat as well, they can get me there. Probably the easiest.
Perfect. We'll have that linked up in there as well in the show notes. And thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your wisdom. Go out and live your life of abundance and keep paying it forward. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Wally. You're doing an amazing thing here. It's been a pleasure to visit with you.
Thank you. Aloha.
Aloha.
All right, guys, that's all I have for you today. Go check out mindfulchoicecoaching.com. Check out the event, connect with her, see if that's the type of event that you would like to get involved in, and then just take action. And ladies, same thing. Go ahead and check it out. If it's something you know that your man needs, the men in your life, then take action. Sign them up for it. Encourage that they go and attend this event. Now, go out and live your life of abundance and make sure to pay it forward.
That's all for today, Abundance Leaders. For more about our guests and the powerful information we shared with you today, be sure to sign up for our mailing list at menofabundance.com. We appreciate your time and look forward to hanging out with you on our next episode. So until then, be sure to pay it forward and live your life of abundance.